Hi, everybody. I'm Zev Halpern,
And I'm Sarah Polyakov.
and this is Ways to Warm Up Your Relationship and More. A lot of us, we've been with each other for a long time. Maybe we haven't. Maybe we've been with each other for a short time. But for some reason, our relationships go cold. We forget that there's romance. We forget that there's other things that we can do to turn up the heat in a relationship. And if you don't do it, it only gets worse and worse. So the more that you don't warm up your relationship, the worse it's going to get. So it behooves you to try the best you can to find ways to be closer, to hug longer, to do the kinds of things that, say hello and goodbye in the morning, you know, give kisses, do these kinds of things. These are the things that make it work.
And
So,
for those who are tuning in live, you will have the opportunity to send me or email me or text me reader questions. So stay tuned. I'm sure we're going to have some really interesting reader questions coming in, and we will be answering those too.
so here we go. Ways to warm up your relationship. One way to warm up your relationship is to adopt an attitude, a mindset, shift your mindset to one of explore, experiment, and play. As organisms, we all experiment, we explore, we don't all play, but certainly to make it in the world, whether we be an animal or a human, there's a lot of exploration and experimentation that takes place. And once we realize that and don't forget that, we can do a lot to make our relationships closer and warmer. One of my favorite quotes are, there are no failed experiments, just experiments with unexpected outcomes. And if you're an inventor, you certainly know that because you've tried it 300 million times. And maybe and that last time is the one that makes it for you. But in order to have it, you have to keep experimenting. You can't stop because you might be one away from that big jackpot. So adopt and explore, experiment, and for relationships and play. Adult play is highly underrated and it's also pushed back. Don't play. You're an adult. Don't do this. Don't do that. Well, when we play with each other in the sandbox, like we were told, play nice in the sandbox, guess what? Things happen. And we can even bring things with us like we used to. We brought pails and shovels. Well, we can bring toys and all kinds of things. And the most important thing here is keep an open mind and remember that your relationship can get stronger from that open mind.
So you got an interesting story about how you teach some people to play. Do you remember? It was a couple who were in their golden years, and you suggested something really cool to them that really helped them. You
Oh, I
remember?
suggest lots of things to people, but I know I suggest one thing is to go out to a bar, and meet at a bar. Don't go together. Meet at a bar or meet at a watering hole or a restaurant or a pub and whisper in the middle of all these crowds that guess what? I am commando today. I went commando, and you whisper that, and all of a sudden you have that all these people in the room, and you know this one thing about the person that's special to you. That can get things moving. That can get things moving along. That's
And,
just one thing. Give it
and
a try. Give it a
even
try.
further by saying what you're going to do to them when you get home.
Right, and people do like that. I mean, men and women are a little different. They like to hear what you're going to do to them the minute, or sometimes, while you're doing it, they want to hear, what you're doing. But these are sexy things, and this is what it takes to get your sexy mindset on. And this is what we're talking about here. We're not talking. You don't have to go the whole, shebang. You don't have to hit the bed, rocking, the big event, the earth-shaking event. You can get there in increments. The most important thing is that keep it warm. You remember the game. Is it cold, colder, colder, warmer?
Warmer.
Warmer, 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 hot. That's
Yes.
where you want to go. Stay with the warmer. Now, the reason why I do what I do, and I've been doing this for a very long time, helping, and I'm not going to keep this too long, is that I was in a plane crash, and this plane crash really made me see my life in front of me. I was pretty much a garden variety therapist during then. After that event, when I realized that I had seen my life in front of me, I really realized that I needed to look at my own relationship, my wife, my family, and take it more seriously and heat it up and make sure that it stays warm. And I ended up doing it, and it followed me because I ended up working with couples after that. And not that something as drastic as this, and this is a whole story in itself, which one day I'll tell. But anyway, this is a big motivator for me, because all of us, we don't know what's around the corner. None
You
of us.
almost, you
We're not
almost,
able,
you almost died on that plane, Zev.
we're not able to predict,
Right.
what's around the corner. So let's invest the time that we have, in keeping the people who we love happy and content and fulfilled. And one way is to keep relationships warm. Here's some client testimonials. We have many. People come to us because their relationships are either they want them to fix and they're fixable, or they're not and they're done and they need to rebuild. So, why do we couple? I mean, what, with all the complaints that we hear, I mean, the joke world is filled with jokes about marriages and about being married and about spouses and about your wife and about your husband. He's this and she's that, all negative stuff. Why in the world, with all that going on, would we want a couple?
It's
Any
biology.
ideas, Sarah?
Isn't it biology? I mean, we are genetically wired to couple and to form social groups. That's part of the human experience. So they can tell all the jokes they want. But the truth is, we are genetically wired to find a partner. There's safety in having a household. I mean, this goes back to what our ancestors had to do. They had to couple up to survive, they had to have a family to survive. So the couple is it's a strong drive, regardless of the jokes and regardless of how much sometimes we get frustrated and don't want a couple, yet it's there.
You hit the nail on the head, Sarah, because really safety and security is the reason why people coupled in the first place. They did it because they were worried. Life was unpredictable. They had no idea, and better to share it and be with somebody than to be a lonely, scared person,
Right.
with some, dinosaur eating you.
Exactly.
However it ended up being.
If the T-Rex puts its head into your cave, it's better to be eaten as a couple than alone.
I think so. At least your fear is shared.
And that's a failed date night, by the way. Can you imagine if that T-Rex came in and it was like Friday night date night at the Flintstones cave, and the T-Rex comes in looking for food? That is what I called a failed date night.
Yeah. I also call that a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's clearly a nightmare. But I think as couples, we are better served when we try to soothe each other. Anybody out there ever heard anything bad about soothing? Soothing is like, oh, it feels good.
Yeah.
To be soothed, to be relaxed, to be
sitting
massaged.
in the jacuzzi, watching
the diametric. I mean, the antithesis of yelling. Person comes home after a hard day of work, frustrated by their boss. God knows what, the traffic was impossible. They walk in the house, and the first thing their spouse does, whether it's the man or the woman, they start screaming, take care of the kids, make dinner, do this, do that. Why don't you ever clean up the house? Why don't you ever do this? So what happens to a human being when they're yelled at? What happens?
Well, it's a really good way to kill a marriage. I'm going to say that. but it really causes trauma also. I would say that it starts to cause deep trauma if the person doesn't speak up. What do you think?
It causes flight. It causes the same kind of thing when we get scared, like a deer in a headlight. You
Yep.
know, yelling is not something that's very desirable. Nobody wants to hear it.
No.
Nobody wants to be yelled at, and it makes you run. And it certainly doesn't make you listen. So really, you're yelling for yourself because the other person at some point very soon shuts you off. Better to try to have a nice conversation later, say what's on your mind, set up the dialogue. I know it's not easy, especially when you don't have practice talking with each other, because the problem with humans is even though we have two ears, we don't listen very well. You know, we seem to have our own minds, and when we hear other people, we hear them through our own needs and expectations.
We
And with
didn't.
couples, it's important to hear exactly what the other person is saying, and even nod your head. Wow, nod your head. Look, the person actually was present in the room and heard what I said and listened to. If you know how good that makes a person feel, to be heard, to be recognized, to be
To be
listened to,
present.
it
Yeah.
is one of the most important things in human existence. And a lot of people feel they are just not heard. That's why they're called hearings. That's
And
why
this
in the legal profession they're
exactly.
called hearings, because they get to hear somebody's complaint.
Some people go to divorce court just to be heard
It's
for
true.
the first time, just to be able to speak their mind to their spouse while their spouse has
Yeah,
to.
how terrible it's been for them.
Yes.
Exactly.
And we don't want you to go there. You don't have to go to divorce court to be heard. So no yelling. Go
So
to the soothing.
what's a good mindset? You know, I mean, what's right with your relationship instead of always what's wrong. Granted, if there's a million things that are wrong, it's hard to see the thing that's right. But I would ask two people to take a look at why they got together in the first place. What was it about each other, whether it was something familiar from their past, whatever it was, and to try to come up with something that's right and to build on something that's right. And to that way, when you're doing it that way, you can find a way to a can-do attitude, and you can do it in a soothing way. You don't have to be irritable. You don't have to be this, because irritable, nobody wants anybody irritable. They don't want to hear you. They don't want to, enough. It's either called nagging or it's called you're not present in my life. Whatever it is, it's not working. And so the best thing to do is to try to be present, to have a can do attitude about it, to not bring a list of 1,000 things that you want the other person to do, but to have a list of three needs that you'd wish could be met by your spouse. Not that they're going to, and not that they're going to commit to it, but put it out there, put it on the table, and do it in a soothing way. And guess what? As you climb those stairs, you might find that you might get your needs met, because you're not going to get your needs met if you keep them to yourself. And a lot of people are scared to say what's on their mind to their spouses because their spouses scream and yell. Well,
Exactly.
that's not very fair. Matter of fact, that sucks. Who needs that?
No one needs that. Yeah. It's
But it is, and sometimes some people have to go to a coach or a counselor or a therapist or whatever, just so they can have a dialogue and be heard. Just, and not as a referee, because a lot of times in my work, with couples, I tell people I'm not your referee and I'm not going to play referee, but I am a facilitator, and I'm here to facilitate a talk between the two of you so that you can advance the kind of goals that you want for your relationship. And you can get your needs met somehow, and you can get some of your needs met somehow. Then two people walk away from the table with something, and that's the best thing that can happen. That's when strikes get settled, when the two parties walk away from the table with something in their pocket.
exactly.
It never gets settled when one person or one scenario. Now, here's a 5-step formula because we want to melt the ice. And believe me, in a lot of relationships, it's icy. You know, I mean, it's not a far jump to use the word ice. You know, what used to be you and me love, I love you, you love me, now has turned into an ice, ice capades, where
Freeze,
like you can't even get through.
deep freeze. Yeah. 24 degrees below zero. That's
What's
what happens to some relationships.
what's that feel like, Sarah? You know, just what talking to different people. What's
When a
that feel
person
like?
is in a relationship that is turned cold, they feel as if they would be better off alone than in a relationship that is turned cold because they feel as if every day they're met with a type of rejection. And so, can you imagine living your life every day feeling rejected at every moment? That would
You
start.
start, you start to reject yourself. You start to deject yourself.
Yes.
You just start to like, what's the use? You wake up going, oh, another day I'm going to be rejected.
And then it causes depression. So, a cold relationship can do real psychological damage to the experience or the person who's experiencing the cold freeze.
Especially it goes on for a long time. You know, people are going to find, when we're cold, we usually find some way to get warm. And unfortunately, a lot of people do find a way to get warm. They find somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
they cheat or they're in, infidelity sets their ugly face and people feel betrayed. But, not that there's something right about betrayal, but there's something very wrong about cold shoulder and rejection. And it does make people, look for a place where they're going to be accepted, cared for, and loved and feel the touch again.
If you don't want somebody to do that to you, then don't do it to another person.
So
Right?
in this 5-step formula, we want to break the ice. So usually in relationships, there we have sinned against each other in some kind of way. We've yelled, we've done things, we haven't done what we've said, we've made promises. Seek forgiveness. First and foremost, seek forgiveness. Forgiveness is possible, but it's not always possible. There are some things, and I, will say this, that are unforgivable. They're not forgivable, but most things are. So look into your heart, see what you can do to ask forgiveness and not in the just, I'm so sorry for doing this. Forgiveness has to be action oriented. You have to show the person that you really stepped into forgiveness, not just, acted like, I'm sorry, I won't happen again, that you've heard for the 1,000th time and 300,000 times more. You have to put past disappointments behind you. I mean, this takes kind of like breathe in the air and say to yourself, I just got to move forward. I can't be living in the past. I have to find out if there's a future for me. And if you believe that there's a future for you and that you can put these past disappointments behind you, then you have a chance of moving forward. You need to warm things up, right, Sarah? How would they do that? Warm things up. What are some ways people could do that?
It starts with eye contact because I've heard people say, he won't even look me in the eyes any longer. So think about that. Are you looking your spouse in the eyes when they talk? Are you making that eye contact? Because holding eye contact with somebody you love, that creates feel good hormones, especially if you're not yelling. That's the caveat. No yelling, once again.
Looking somebody in the eye is a view to the heart.
Yes.
View to somebody's heart.
And then progress to holding hands, gentle touches on the hands, gentle touches on the shoulders, and then hug like you mean it, like you really mean it, not a pat.
Meaning that you hug for a minute. A minute doesn't seem like a long time, but when you hug for a minute and you run your hands down another person's body or down their, slowly down their back, to their buttocks and along their arms and things like that, you're sending a message, that you're a warm human being and that you're needing warmth and that you're creating warmth as you do it.
You really are.
and believe me, it translates and it's communicated. You don't have to say it.
Body
A warm, tight hug, where you let your hands wander to places that are okay to wander, with permission. Um,
So here it's body language really breaks the ice. And I'm thinking of my grandparents, my mother's parents. They always had a warm relationship. And the thing that my grandfather always did, now this was crude, and we're talking about the 1950s, 1960s here, but
different time,
yeah,
different time.
different time when they were young. I'm talking about when they were a young couple. He would always smack her on the hip or on the behind as she walked by. He did that every time, and of course she would say, "Oh, Fred," and she would pretend like she was offended, but she wasn't offended. She loved it, and he knew that, and he would chuckle, and that was their thing. And they always had this warm relationship because of that. It's such a silly thing, but it worked for them.
These days, you tap a butt, you can get in trouble. So make sure it's a butt that you have permission to
Your
tap.
wife, yes, your wife's or your husband's, exactly.
All right. So here's another way. One thing is, hey, you guys met. Who knows? Was it 40 years ago? Was it 50 years ago? Was it 5? Was it 6 months ago? You guys have memories. Those memories were the times where you were so connected that you were joined at the mind and the heart and the hip and other things. All you wanted to do was listen to each other, hear each other for hours, talk on the phone. Take a look at some of the pictures from that time.
And it
These
was
are your intimate memories. Yeah, it was you two that were having sex in that bed. Yes,
yeah.
it was the two of you who were hugging and rocking and doing all kinds of creative things. That was the two of you, however many years ago it was. And therefore, when you look at those pictures, you might see some pretty satiated looks. Oh boy, you sure look, pretty happy.
glowing.
That's what people might call well sexed. You feel, that's a nice way of saying it.
There is a well-sexed glow that does exist, and you've had it in your relationship.
So look back and remember back, and guess what? Talk to each other about those times. Remember those times, where you were, where you did it in the backyard, of your parents' house, or you did it in a car, or God knows someone's kitchen, or however, or whatever closet you figured out a way, to do what you both wanted to do. You wanted to be close with each other. The next thing is create some secret sauce. And the secret sauce, a lot of times for relationships, is when we create novelty and we create anticipation. If your relationship can manufacture anticipation, you're on a good path towards moving your relationship forward, and mix it up. There are a lot of novelty things you can do. You can dress up. You can wear high heels. You can surprise somebody naked, although sometimes that leads to disappointment. So be ready. Be ready. It doesn't always, a person could be in a bad mood. Doesn't have anything to do with your nakedness. It has to do with their crappy mood. And, try to gauge that. It's about trying. It's about trying different things. Send little love notes. Put notes inside the bag, the lunch.
Yeah.
Leave texts. Text sexy things. Tell them things that you know about them that nobody else knows. This is, there are millions and millions of ways to create novelty. And you have to prioritize. You have to, people, there are rituals. Rituals, although it sounds very religious because people associate rituals with religion, rituals are things that take place, that people enjoy doing, that people come together to do. A ritual could be spaghetti night at somebody's house that they look forward to. At dinner, their mother cooked that favorite spaghetti that they loved, or they got into a bath, together on a particular night when they had more time. But these, what we will call together time rituals. Find them, talk about them, figure out a way, whatever it may be. You might be running, you might be bike riding, you might be swimming, you might be at the beach. Who knows, whatever it is, develop a private ritual that you can do together, because these are the most intimate times. And intimacy doesn't mean sex. Intimacy means that you are one, you're together, you are locked, brain locked, like Star Trek. You are brain locked, mind meld, and that's intimacy that leads to the other kind of loving,
Yeah.
the bumping and grinding kind, that maybe you used to have, that maybe you want to have again. But it comes down to priority, and you want to warm up your relationship, prioritize setting up private rituals. And look, sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes you end up getting in a fight, and you can't just agree to disagree, even though that sounds so sensible. Well, even though it sounds sensible, it doesn't always work out that way. And who knows, what you planned to be a wonderful time together turned out to be a knockdown, drag out fight. And you didn't want that to happen, but it was brewing anyway. There was something you weren't doing, and this is the time they chose to say it. So always plan a next time. When you had a good time or it was a bad time, always plan a next time. If you don't have something on the calendar, then you don't have anything. You got to have that joint calendar.
Yeah. Make up for that bad time. If it was a bad time, be sure to schedule a time to make up for a bad time, right?
Didn't somebody have a question, Sarah?
Yes, the questions have been coming in actually. So let's see. Oh, this is an interesting one. Let's see. John says, I messed up. I said something hurtful during an argument that I did not mean. And now there's this wall between us. I've apologized multiple times, but she says sorry is not enough. What does a real apology actually look like? And how do I rebuild trust with her?
A real apology means that you step into an action-packed apology. There's nothing action-packed about saying I'm sorry.
No.
It's the beginning. It's okay to say I'm sorry for exactly what you did. I'm sorry for doing this thing or saying this thing that hurt you, and I will do everything in my power to try to make that not happen again. Now, how can I make it up to you? How can I make this up to you? What can I do to show you that I'm listening and I heard you, and I really understand how hurt you were, and I'm willing to make this up to you? That's an apology, John. That's how you get into it. That's how you find favor, in the eyes of this person that you've hurt. And all you can do is try. If you grudge for a while, which a lot of relationships do, they walk past each other, they don't talk to each other, but after a few days they forgot why they're even mad at each other anyway. So it's important to just jump in and figure out a way to get things moving in a more positive direction. But let me recap about ways to warm up your relationship. Break the ice, create novelty and anticipation, revisit your intimate memories, take a look back, prioritize your together time, make it something you both look forward to, and always plan a next time. Meaning, get that calendar. Forget about computer calendars and all that. Get a real calendar, put it in your kitchen, and put 2 things a month that you guys do together. Because if you do those 2 things and you go out to the show, or you go out to the wherever you go to, or you go skating, or you go riding, or you go walking even, or you walk down the block, these are the things that build strong relationships. This is how it's done, through planning. Plan a next time. Now here's something else. 5 words that will get you what you desire. A lot of times in relationships, people always talking about, I hate when you do that. I can't stand when you do that, Sarah. Stop
Exactly.
doing it.
You
Sarah, if
you
you do
can't
that
tell,
one more time, I just don't know what I'm going to do.
exactly. And you can't tell somebody what not to do because then they don't know what they need to do to please you or to
If you
be
say,
more
I
than
hate what you do, I mean, it is possible. Look, a lot of people make mistakes. During sex, people touch places they think are, like make make the heat, and really they're hurting people. Or
yeah.
and they don't want to say it because they don't want to kill the moment. But instead of giving the person pleasure, you're hurting them. You need to say it, but you need to say it, and not, I hate when you do that. I hate when you jump. Say, I like it when. I like it when you do this. I like it when you touch me there, and show them exactly where that is. All of us have different buttons
Put their
and
hands.
things on our bodies, and we all get pushed, and they need to be pushed in a special way. Show them how to push it in a special way. I like it when you help out, around the house. I like it when you do acts of service for me, because I really appreciate it because I'm freaking overwhelmed.
That's a
And
love language.
I like when you're present. I like when I feel that you're here and you're not distracted from television or the boys or drinking or whatever it is. I like when you touch me. I like when you touch me in this special way. And if you did this more, I'd be one happier, friendlier, more loving partner. And I like when you listen. I love when you listen because I know that you don't always want to hear about my day and you don't want to hear about it, but you know what? It matters to me. It
And here,
matters to me that you listen.
when women, I'm saying this as a woman, so when I have a giant complaint that's weighing on me or something horrible has happened, I want to talk it out. I just want to talk, 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 talk. But I don't expect my partner to fix it. My partner might want to jump in and scramble to try to fix it. No, I just want my partner to listen. Even if it sounds like a catastrophe, I just want my partner to listen because that's how women process, right?
And other people, they process, they got to be fixers. A lot of people don't want fixers, they want listeners.
Exactly.
They
So you
want a
don't
hearing.
necessarily have to fix what somebody's talking about. You just have to listen.
Now, another thing you can do is you can take the temperature of your relationship. Every week, you review and discuss, and you have kind of a mutual focus, and you figure out what your mutual vision is for your relationship. You start out by gauging the weekly relationship temperature. Maybe it's a stressful week. Maybe there's people coming. Maybe there's an event. Maybe it's not just a regular week. Maybe, it's your time of the month. Maybe menopause has set in. Who knows? All I can say is gauge your weekly temperature and tell the person, I'm puzzled by why you do this. You know, you could be puzzled your whole life and not say anything. I encourage you, be puzzled and ask why. Why does this person that you love puzzle you? And let them give you a good darn reason why it is that they puzzle you. Show gratitude. I really appreciate the things you do for this family. I really appreciate the little things, the small things, the giant things, and do that weekly, not just on Hallmark holiday cards, not just on anniversaries and not just on birthdays, but every week. You can't do it every day. Every day is difficult. You have a grievance, you got some kind of complaint. What is it? What's the grievance? And how would you like the grievance to be tweaked? How would you like the thing to be settled? What would be a reasonable thing that would settle that for you?
And Zev, we have a question from a reader, and I don't think this reader is going to be able to do some of these things that we talk about. So, can I read his question?
Go for it.
He says, I want to be more emotionally available, but I honestly don't know how. I was raised to, quote, man up. I've heard that before, and not talk about feelings. When my partner asks how I'm feeling, I genuinely do not know what to say. I don't even know where to start. So how do we help him?
Well, to this listener, I would say we all have feelings, but we need to find them. Some of them are tucked away deep. Some of them are hidden by anger, or they're hidden by stress, or they're hidden by, by the families we grew up in, and we act a certain way, and we don't let on that we're angry, or we're loving, or we don't tell people we love them. I would suggest that you go and talk to somebody and bring out some feelings. If you really, really want to express your feelings, then you need to find where they are. And one way to do that is in the privacy of you and a counselor or a coach who can help you come to terms, and then you can realize this thing that you're trying to realize. This could be absolutely not your fault. This is how you were raised. There are a lot of people like this. I was raised to treat my kid, I just smack them.
Yeah.
That might be all and good for whoever was raising you, but it certainly wasn't good for you, and it's certainly not going to translate well for the children that come after you, because you could in some ways end up repeating that kind of behavior because it was reversed, and that would be awful, and that would be
awful. It would be awful.
So go and then take a look. You don't have to go to a therapist for a long time. Go sometimes, 5 times, and find out why it is you're not feeling, and get in touch with some of your feelings, because it could change the way your whole life turns out in ways that you couldn't even imagine. Good question. Appreciated that question. That was a good one. Now here's a radical approach. So I want to set the stage. You got Mr. or Mrs. Couch Potato, who sits on the couch and doesn't do anything, and they don't talk to you, and they're not responding, and they're not present, and you're not feeling the love at all. And what do you do? How do you be heard? What do you got to do? Like set off a cherry bomb, set off a nuclear bomb in the house? No, I don't think so. What you need to do is you need to do something for your darn self. You need to say, I know what? I live in this world. I don't live in this world, just to please my spouse or my children or whatever. I need to do something for myself. I need to take a class. I need to go to a lecture. I need to go to the library sometimes. I need to go take a dance, lesson. I need to do some things that would make me feel good about me, because when you feel good about you, chances are you're going to be a much better, person, especially in regards to a relationship.
And something will happen to that couch potato, because if you change, couch potato is going to notice it. And in all relationships, whether they're love relationships, work relationships, change begets more change, because people notice change. You're shaking up the status quo. People notice.
So find an activity outside your house.
They have to respond in some way to what you're doing, right?
So if you go ahead and so here's the advice. Find something to do. Plan it. Schedule the day. Put the day on the calendar. Announce it a few times, whether couch potatoes listening or not. You said it, and then when the day comes, remind them, oh, by the way, today's the day I'm taking that glass making course, and I won't be around, so you'll have to have dinner for yourself, and I'll be out till such and such a time, and I'll see you when I get home. Uh-oh. Wow.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, guess what? Somebody's gonna, you just announced this new activity, whatever, and you are doing it, and you're doing something for yourself. That can only help your relationship. It might make somebody mad. They might go, you didn't tell me you were going out. Oh, yes, I did. I told you 3 times. You weren't listening. You were watching TV. This isn't punitive. This is just to shake things up a little bit. You're only human. Shake it up. You got to shake up. If people aren't listening, you got to find a way to get them to listen.
That's right.
But announce this new activity and get it going and get moving. Follow through, enjoy it yourself, have a great time. It's only going to make you be a stronger individual. And a stronger individual is a better couple, is a better partner.
Right.
Always has been and always will be.
And we've got this really interesting reader question from a woman that's related to this topic. She says that she feels guilty even saying this, but she says, I fantasize about what it would be like to be with someone who still saw me as exciting and new. I would never cheat, but the fact that I'm even thinking this way scares me. Does feeling this way mean my marriage is over, or is this normal? Can you fall back in love with someone when the butterflies have been gone for years? So this sounds like somebody who's not being seen. What do you think?
My first thought is more power to you for being able to fantasize and get in touch with what you need in this world. You need to feel the love. You need to feel, and now you've even taken it a little further, and it's kind of, you're feeling like this is a danger point. It's dangerous to start fantasizing about other people, especially people who you might know. A lot of people do fantasize about people in their lives, friends, husbands, wives, whatever. I mean, that's just a very natural thing. People at the office. The problem is that if you're rejected and dejected, then you might take the leap, into acting out on that. And I'm not saying, that it's wrong to think it, but you have to kind of figure out a way to keep it in the thinking range and not go ahead and trespass on your relationship unless, you're just done. Some people make decisions to move on, and sometimes it's really not their fault, even though they'll be blamed for it. You'll be blamed for betrayal. You'll be blamed for cheating. But, you need to judge yourself. You need to gauge your feelings and need to let it, please make sure this person, your spouse, your partner knows how much you want to get those butterflies back, and that's important to you. And if that falls on deaf ears, it's time to go see somebody. It's time to make some ultimatums about going to see somebody and talking about it, because you don't have to live like that, and you shouldn't live like that, and you shouldn't be forced into some physical, mistake just because you were horny and natural. And there's my answer.
Right.
I hope that works for you. Please don't feel guilty about your feelings, because your feelings are righteous and legit. Just make sure, where you are in terms of acting on some of those things. They do have sex toys, you can fantasize all you want, and you can, get yourself, some kind of pleasurable orgasm or something that you're looking for, and you can satisfy yourself in the meantime. But still, it's not going to put an end to the, longing for what you're longing for, because you've already switched into the longing for love. And
speaking of sex toys, didn't you give some sex toys to a couple in their 80s?
I did. I gave sex. Yeah. Well, we have a program that we did called Unlimited Stimulation. I had all kinds of people in the audience, and they came for 3 days to talk about how to juice up their relationships. And there were older people and there were younger people. There were people from all. And at one point, I gave out a treasure chest of different, safe sex toys that people could use and experiment. And this couple who were in their 80s, came up to me afterwards and says, "Can we keep this, please?" I said, "With my compliments, please enjoy yourselves. And don't think that the next day they didn't tell me, all about how they enjoyed themselves, even though that's not something particularly I'm sure I wanted to hear. I was happy for them."
They told you that they loved the sex toy?
Oh yeah, and they got a little further into it, further than I wanted to.
Really?
But
Oh,
the smile on their faces was worth it.
but that's how you know what you do works for people,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that's why you do what you do. We want to change people's lives like this.
And sometimes it takes pushing and tugging because couples don't just change on themselves. Sometimes they need to be pushed and tugged, and that's
And
just the way it is. So, how do
and
you maintain the gains that you had from this campaign, in your relationship to warm up your relationship? How do you maintain the gains? Well, you listen to what your partner's saying or asking for, that's for sure. You hug a little longer and you let your hands wander. You forgive more than you grudge less, support each other's burden and chores, yell less, soothe more, take time and give time for yourselves, schedule meetups on the calendar, plan a few overnight things, get out of the house together, get out of that house and have a good time and do some things with each other, develop those private, together time rituals, whatever they may be. They need to be something you both like, not just, oh, she likes it, so I'll do it. No,
right.
something you both look forward to so that you'll look forward to it.
And here's a clue. This is a real story. There was a man and his wife. She could only really let her wild side out sexually when they went to a hotel. So boy, did he get a Marriott points reward card because he was rewarded by his wife when booking hotel rooms. Some
Well, a
people
lot of times they talk about, vacation Bob or vacation Jane, that all of a sudden they took a vacation, and they turn into Tarzan and Jane.
exactly.
Oh,
That's a good thing. So get a rewards card, book the hotel. It can sometimes work wonders for your
yeah,
marriage.
just get away. Just get away, you don't have to cost all kinds of money. Just
Nope.
get out of the house.
Get
Do,
out of the house,
do something different.
in the park, anything.
One last thing here, is let's talk. Talk to Sarah and I. Reach out to us at info@youramazingedge.com. Our new website um, is now under construction, and soon, in the next month or so, it will be ready, and it's going to be fantastic. Youramazingedge.com. Um, and if you really want to figure out, have someone to talk to who knows what they're talking about, set up a clarity call. Reach out to us, DM us on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever, and we'll talk about your specific situation and find a reasonable way to go about it. Now, Sarah and I, not just working on relationships, we also worked on personal and professional development. And one day, Sarah said to me, "Hey, Zev, let's write a book." And I said, "A book? That sounds like a lot to do." But we did it. And even more so, we did it on Zoom. As Sarah and I, we live on other sides of the country and we have never been in the same room together. We wrote the book, Discover Your Amazing Edge, available in hardback, softcover, and Kindle on Amazon. Every chapter has something uniquely different. You don't have to read the book full through because in each chapter has something about how to develop your personal and professional development. So, and inquire about our other programs. Look, we have something called the 3-week couples challenge, Leap Forward webinar, Pure Success masterclass, and we have one-on-one mentoring. So I hope that you'll avail yourselves of that, and I hope that this warming up your relationship um, kind of a teaser, but with loaded, chock full of information, which I hope you can use and take with you into your relationship and take it even further when you reach out to Sarah and I um, to, um, to have that chat or to bring your spouse and to really work on things that will make your relationship a place that you both look forward to being in. So
And there's
Sarah,
always hope for change, right? There's always hope for change. Never get to the place where you think that you've lost hope for change. It can be changed, especially with professional help. And
and
even
with professional help, you'll find out that if it can't be changed, you'll find that out too. Because some relationships just can't be changed. And, sometimes we have to close the chapter and open up new chapters. We are not bound to be unhappy in this world all our lives. And don't think that you have to be. Give your best shot. Try the hardest to fix, what's fixable. But when you come to find out if it's not fixable, it's time to rebuild, and to rebuild in a way where you don't repeat the same mistake time and time again.
right.
So anyway, this has been fun, and I enjoyed doing this, Sarah. And we look forward. Look, join our podcasts Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're on LinkedIn. Check us out. We have Spicy Fridays, where we talk about sexy things in our relationships, communication, all kinds of things. And then what do we have Tuesdays, Sarah?
Mindset shift happens.
Mindset Shift Happens, where we talk about all different kinds of ways that you can change your mindset and move and break through the walls and find the breakthroughs you're looking for. So anyway, be in touch, reach out to us, and we look forward to talking with you very soon. Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. And thank you for the listeners who wrote in the questions. We appreciate you.
Appreciated those questions. Good ones. Thank you. Send more.
Send more. Thank you.